A few weeks ago, someone commented that a Shovim shir was being given by a Rav, and it was a one series shir. Usually you see it's 3 series, 5 series, at least 2 parts, 1 part, the whole Hilchas Niddah. And I think we all remarked that's slightly insane and ludicrous. And therefore, we decided we're going to do the same. We're going to do the same. So, B'siyata D'Shemaya, the one word of Akdama is that this is coming on the heels of everyone, obviously, whether listening to Shovim Shurim, whether having learned Hilchas Niddah at some form in their lives. So we're going to try to skip over some of the basics and we're going to try to keep it to that which you must know. That doesn't mean that if we leave something out, you don't need to know it. That means that hopefully we will boil down the next 30 minutes to what you need to know. And as was suggested, we're going to go in order. We're going to go in order of the life cycle. Order of the life cycle. So we begin with a woman becoming a Niddah. And we have to remind ourselves, is there Niddah Midaraisa nowadays? The answer is of course, in many forms. Is there Niddah Midarabana nowadays? Of course, in many forms. The classical cases of Niddos is when a woman has her period number 1. Even if it's not her period necessarily, but as we heard from Rav Again and Rav David Cohen recently this week, when there's something called a riboy of dam, a riboy dam breaks all the rules. You could have the greatest heterim in the world. You have an IUD of copper that's creating a makkah that should be the gold pass. But once there's a riboy of dam, once there is a significant amount of blood, a woman becomes ulcer. Now, what point that becomes a riboy dam, that's of course the $1,000,000 question. But however, we give an incredible disclaimer, and if you just hear this, the whole thing was, Kedai, take your food and leave. And this is going to be the disclaimer that we're going to give many times. Always ask. Never assume, there was a lot of blood, she's a Niddah. Never assume, the Badika was red, she's a Niddah. Which, by the way, that's another case where a woman becomes a Niddah Daraisa. Because it was on a Badika cloth. Something that goes by Isam Makam, Vade Migufa, and Isam Makam, that makes a Niddah Midaraisa. At what size? Oh, he's not here. At what size? Even a Tipa of Dam. Even a Tipa of Dam becomes a Niddah on the Badika cloth. But always ask a Shayla. What the layman thinks is a tipa of dam, what the average couple thinks, there was so much blood. How much blood? No, mamish, it filled up. What did it fill up? No, it filled up. And you look at the pair of underwear and there's like 2 dots of blood and like filled up what, where, how, and when. And even if it's not that extreme case, and let's say it did properly fill up a pad or 2, ask a shayla. French fries and lasagna, that's myrdik. Ask a shayla because, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Ask a shayla because there are more cases than not that issues are created when one does not ask a shayla. If there is dam after tashmish, which there certainly should not be, certainly that's a shayla, could be a shayla of a daraisa. One has to ask a shayla. And finally, all these cases converge when one is either nursing or on birth control or other types of pills, and the woman's body is sort of not happy to what's going on, and therefore they're staining, and therefore there's other issues. So you ask a shayla, and that is how a woman becomes a Niddah. So how does she become a Niddah? Number 1, her period. Number 2, on a bedika cloth. What about on one? Very good. That's, you could take that too. Number 3, and if the Rav yells you for asking a stupid shayla, then you save him in your phone book as do not call back, and you find a new rabbi. And that we could even say that in public, because someone just told me last night, from Yaakov Kamenetsky, that Rav Yaakov was famous that he would sit there and talk to Balbatim about the most, not even mundane things, about like exercise and the machine and how they work out. And like, someone asked Rav Yaakov, like, Adkan, Rebbe, this is crazy. And he said, I believe that clearly my avodah is savlanis right now. And that's the way to create the connection, is you have to have patience with people. So I was makabel upon myself, whatever one is asked, the Goyina Gadol of Yaakov Kamenetsky. So definitely the rest of us. Now, if a woman feels that she had a sensation of blood come out of her, ask a shayla. Kemat all cases, it's nothing to worry about. We don't have time to be mayrach on that. Now, when we come to a kasem is a stain. The difference between a stain and a bedika is just that. One is you were looking for blood, you went inside a samakam and you found blood. That's called a bedika. 1 dot is tameh. a full flow of blood, that's called the menstrual period. That also is tummy. Next is we have something called a stain. What's a stain? A stain is just like it is. Oh shoot, I have a stain on my jacket. Woman looks in her underwear. Oh shoot, there's a stain on the couch, on the bedding, wherever a stain is found. That is called a kesem. The dinim of a kesem are basically as follows. We boil it down to there are 4 questions you ask anytime you have a kesem. And if one doesn't know, you call the Rav. But these are the 4 questions that the Rav is going to don. Number 1, what is the color? What is the color? Which usually it stops right there. Usually it's not red and you move on. Or if you're calling the Rav, you can't ask that Shaila because he can't answer the color over the phone. So number 2 is what is the size of the stain? As we mentioned, on a bedika cloth, even a tipa danke chardol, one little dot is metamer. But on a stain, on a colored garment, on a something sama kabel tuma, it's only the sheer gris ve'oid, which sounds like when you look at again, you look at a stain on a pair of underwear, like wow, it's a large stain. Take a quarter, take a nickel, take a dime. No, I did not just say a quarter is a gris, but just for comparison purposes, you want to see how large the stain is. You have to know the size. One little dot of blood on a colored garment is not mitame, but on a bedika, one little dot on a slow. One little, we're gonna get there back. Was one little dot on a bedika cloth is a problem. We're talking about the size of the stain. Next is where the stain is upon. Where the stain is upon. I just said wherever it is found. That's number 2, is wherever it is found. It's uncolored, it's on white. I have to know the size. Now, number 3, which you so beautifully pointed out, thank you, is what color is the kesem upon? If the kesem is on a white garment, then it will be metame gris void. If it's on a colored garment, then it will not be metame gris void. At what point will it be metame? It's something called a riboy of dam. When is that? That is what you ask a shayla. Number 4 is the item that it's found upon mikabel toma, which is our toilet papers and sanitary pads and toilets and showers and all those items. Every single item I said is a shayla. So those are the 4 questions. So again, you find the stain. Very simply, you find the stain. What do? Number 1, you never assume your tummy unless you ask your Rav. Good. Number 2, you have to know the color of the stain. You think it's red. Great. So you go to number 2. What size is the stain? Okay, so it's, I don't know, the rabbi, it's the size of a penny. Okay, great. Wonderful. You have a stain the size of a penny. Beautiful. Number 3, where is the stain found? It's on a colored pair of underwear. Everything is fine. It's on a white pair of underwear. Oh, it's a little more scary. What size is it? And number 4 is what if it's mikabel tuma, if it's makabel tuma or not. If it's multiple stains, do they combine? How do they combine? Leave that all up to a seasoned, and we focus on the word seasoned, rabbinic source for all of that. That is a kesem. So now the woman is tummy. Now the woman just became tummy. So we're going to go, where should we go next? After the woman becomes tummy, what should be next? Zayin Akiyim? Hafsik Tayar Zayin Akiyim? Hafsik Tayar Zayin Akiyim? No, really, we should go Archakas first, because before you get to Hafsik Tayar Zayin Akiyim, you got Archakas, right? Because you're tummy. Great. So now we have Archakas. So what is the rule of Archakas? Now this is something which I know we emphasize this in this room very much so, and someone actually told me afterwards that he appreciated that emphasis, that there's a lave of Archakas. It makes sense. When we are taught Archakas as an evil set of rules, that when your wife sees your period, you cannot do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, number 1, you will never remember the rules. And number 2, you will almost certainly violate the rules, because the undercurrent of everything is you cannot have a situation of intimacy when a woman is a Niddah. Does that mean she can't wear makeup? Of course not. Of course she could wear makeup. Of course she could dress pleasant. Of course she could look beautiful. Can't be intimate. Now that is a very fine line, which usually only the husband and wife could determine what that fine line is. One wants to know, could I say I love you to my wife when she's in Niddah? Well, I don't want to make this certain countries of the world, but in certain countries of the world, to say the words I love you is like a whole ganze love song, so then maybe not. In other parts of the world, you say I love you to the coworker that you met yesterday. That might be a little bit extreme, but either way, what should I tell you? Similar to, no, not really similar to kissing random people, but either way, that goes with random countries. But when it comes to Archakas, the point is we are staying away from intimacy, which means it doesn't mean create a situation that you somehow figured out a way to be as close to her without touching her as possible. And no. If that's a matter of intimacy, it is usher. Lemaisa, Ramesha writes that busha, embarrassment, is not an excuse. This is a Ramesha that is quoted, I don't want to say misquoted, I don't want to say abused. Lemaisa, embarrassment is not an excuse. That's the klal. But if there's a situation that one is going to be super embarrassed, you ask a shayla because there are leniencies within the rules. Ramesh is just saying you cannot violate the rules. Now, one might ask, what do you mean? Kavod Abrius is doichet, certainly derabanan. Everything here is basically a derabanan. Okay, that's the Ramesh. And finally, just a rayon, an idea is, especially we're talking to men here, men have more rules than women. That's, the basic mahalach. Now, some take that rule mamish out of Sefer. Yisrael Berkowitz, if you go look at his world of Archakas, different world than the whole world. He has mamish chalukim back and forth between the man and the woman. It's not as much as I think the conventional mahalach. However, it is important to know, and of course this comes from the basic mahalach, that a man is more the hormonal type and he needs the more safeguards, which is Archakas, than the woman. So let's break this down. I have this broken down into 4 basic categories, Archakas. Let's see what we get through. Touching and passing. Touching and passing. You're not allowed to touch. Okay, that was simple. You're not allowed to pass. Now, first of all, I was just fascinating. I was at a Sephardi wedding, just incredible. The Sephardi wedding, the chassan walks halfway down to greet the kala, and then chassan and kala walk side by side to the chuppah. So cute, mamish cute, and all the Ashkenazim in the room were like, "Oh, so cute." Apparently, they've never been at a Sephardi wedding. But what I was thinking is, Lamaisa, she's a Niddah. They're not married yet, and when they're walking, you're clearly touching her gown. I mean, it's impossible not. Excuse me, you're not a Niddah. You're not married. You're not married. You're not married. Yeah, slicha. I meant the opposite. I meant that you can't touch it. Correct. She's not a Niddah, but you cannot. Ah. Okay, that's the other answer. Good. Okay, good. I'll just say my answer either way, but you're right. Very good. You're all correct. Good. Perfect. She's not a Niddah, and you're not married, so you can't touch. But here's where we see the fascinating irony. Mamish an irony that every chassan and kala, I think, at one point in chassan classes, it clicks. This fascinating thing that when I'm engaged, I could hand her the bag of chips. I could drink a soda and give her a drink, whether that's right or wrong. We're not getting involved. That's for everyone's own personal lives. Do you share a soda with the random person in the cafeteria? Maybe you do. So share it with your kala. If you don't, then don't. That's a different discussion. You spend 3 o'clock in the morning schmoozing with the random person in the street. Maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't do it with the kala. Different discussion. Okay, but now tachlis. But then you become married, and she becomes a Niddah. Oh, you can't give her the bag of chips. Fascinating. Zok the Helig Rashba. Says the Rashba, the reason is, as we spoke about, that I hope and pray that in the marriage there's some level of intimacy. And we hope and pray that in the marriage that even things that maybe to the random person wouldn't be intimate acts, but to one's wife certainly carry with it a level of intimacy. And we could say this in the most simplest of forms. I don't know if we should give examples, but in the most simplest of forms, you could give your friend 2 men, they can shake hands, you can give them a hug. There's no level of intimacy there. Yet, a husband and wife, of course, there's going to be a level of intimacy. You're touching each other, you're hugging each other. There's no shayla in the world. So that's the reason you are correct walking down the chuppah. There's no issue because you're just touching the gown. But let's say after she got married. Okay, good. Now, she's married, you married 6 months, you go into the brother's chas, and I think you mentioned this so eloquently, and you're taking the pictures, and what does the photographer do? No, closer. No, come on, you're married already. Your Aunt Bertha on the back is screaming, you're married, you could get closer to each other. Amaisa, she's a Niddah. What are you going to do? So the answer is yes, you can touch. That's not the heter. If you thought that was, I'm sorry. But if her gown is going to be touching your pants into your leg, negia with something in between, lamaisa is a makati mekel. This is the eitzah we give for people who fly. Eitzah give people to fly. Lamaisa, you're sitting next to each other. The chances that you're going to above elbows. No, you don't like it. What's wrong? Pants. Yeah. Well, so we're about to say, without kavanah. So we're about to say, very good. You're flying in an airplane, and somehow another one of the fascinating things, you sit next to a random person, you don't end up rubbing against their arm throughout the flight. Yet somehow your wife's a Niddah, and somehow it's impossible to not get the chips. I don't know, one of the wonders of the world. But what do you do now? So the answer is you take a pillow, and maybe it's when you're going to sleep, whatever it is, and just sit in between. So now, even if there's going to be some incidental, some incidental touching, it'll be incidental via a medium, and that's, of course, marbekel. We did not just say that you could take a pillow and hug each other because, hey, look, it's via davar acher, therefore it's mutter. No, that is aser. Okay, that is touching. Passing. One nice nikuda that someone might be mistaken. Your wife's a Niddah, she goes to hand you the flowers. and she forgot that she's a Niddah, so she hands you the fancy vase of flowers, and you're about to grab it, and you realize, oh shoot, so you pull back. The vase on the floor shattered. Lemaisa, you don't need to let something break if there's going to be a violation of the archakas. You're allowed to complete the pass. You do not have to let it break. If it was done by mistake, it is okay. Finally, pushing items, passing items, if it's a large item like a table or stroller, there is a makayim to be makel. Next is eating together. Eating together, hopefully eating is a form of intimacy, should be at least, and therefore definitely an emotional thing. Just listen to what goes on here over mealtime. But when you're eating from, I'm happy that people agree. Well, yeah, okay, listen, different people bring out different parts of each other. So, lamaisa, to make this simple, because it's complicated, you're eating from one dish and you're eating leftovers, eating on one table. So there's a few basic rules. Basic rule number one is whenever you're eating and your wife, she's an either, you should have a hacker. You should have a hacker. Now you can say, no, but when there's other people there, there's a makar to be mekel. Okay, that's true. Maybe it's a machlokes. No, but if someone's sitting in between us, there's makar to be mekel. That's true. It's a machlokes. So the simple thing is to have a hacker. What is a hacker? Hacker is something on the table to remind you and her that she is a nida. Lemaisa, it's better to have some height, some goiva, put the Windex bottle on the table if the Windex bottle doesn't generally house itself on the table. If it does, then you should be going to a class how to keep your house organized and to not keep your Windex on the table. But if, listen, that's your life, Lemaisa has to be something that's not normally on the table. We're makel basically on anything b'diavad. So in all these shaila cases, you can take off your watch, you can put it on the table. Number two is you're not allowed to eat leftovers from her, nor are you allowed to eat from one dish. So there's two simple ways to get out of it. Number one is you never eat straight from the dish. You take the food, you put it down on the plate. You take the food, you put it in your hand, and then you eat it. Number two is Rav Elyashiv is mekel. Yes, this is a big fight. Rav Moshe is macher, but Rav Elyashiv is mekel. If you transfer the plate, it is mutter. So if she's sitting there and she's eating a salad, and you want some of the salad, if you transfer the plate, then it's going to be mutter. It's not going to be called her leftovers. But of course, you cannot eat it together. Can't both these same. No, you do not have Rav Elyashiv holds. You do not have to cut off the bite marks. He argues on Rav Moshe, and he holds on everything as long as you transfer the plate, it is okay. Take it out of her plate and put it into your plate. But I just mentioned that if she's eating and you're just going to be taking out of her plate and putting it into your plate, then you're eating together from one plate. That's not going to work. Well, Lamashal, she finishes her salad and she said, I'm done. And you're like, what a waste. You're sitting at a restaurant. You said, what a waste. I don't want to throw out the salad. But what am I going to do? I'm going to start asking the waiter. So you just take it and you put it into your plate. Then it is mutter. That's with the salad. That's with the soup. That is with everything. Someone else eating in between a pit stop of a person is also an eat. You can always call over the waiter and ask him to take a bite from the salad. That's another way to do it. L'maisa, serving is aser. Serving is aser. You can't serve each other. You can't pour each other drinks. Water is mutter. Other drinks are all a shaila. The hatirim are a serving plate. You could give a spouse a serving plate. The heter is water. The heter is if you always serve with your right hand, and I emphasize on always, if you sometimes pass things like this, l'chayr, it doesn't work. If you always serve with your right hand, then you're allowed to give with your left hand. And the final heter, which is a good one, if a spouse wants to make each other a cup of coffee, a tea, which is a form of endearment, don't finish the item, which means what do you not do? You don't bob the tea for them, obviously. First of all, because it's just a waste of time. And second of all, because you're not allowed to do that. So you take the tea bag and you put it next to the cup with the sugar and the cup of water, and then they put it all together. Number three is beds. Beds are places of intimacy, as we all can imagine. And therefore, there are more chumros when it comes to beds. A man cannot sit on his wife's bed even when she is not there. I don't think we have to say much more than that. A woman could sit on her husband's bed when he is not there, but she cannot lie down when he is there. Gets a little complicated, but let's just remember that one day you cannot sit on her bed when she is there. Number two is the beds cannot be, you cannot sit on her bed even if she's not there. Thank you. The beds cannot be touching. Rabbi, I have a very small apartment. There's not much room to separate the beds. That's fine. Medina, as long as the beds are not touching, there is a separation. That is fine. L'chomra, many are machmir that it should be an arm's length away, al-pi Kabbalah the Zayar, or enough that the blankets don't touch each other, etc. Finally, is preparing. She cannot prepare your bed in a way of intimacy. Making a bed, most people don't find a very intimate act to figure out a way to schlep the sheets over the mattress and it doesn't fit, and you realize you bought the wrong sheets because you had the bigger beds, a la Brahms. But what do you do like the turn down service? It's a nice fold. I have no clue what I'm talking about, but they say you nicely fold it down and then it's intimate. Everyone, okay, weiter. So that is har, cha, kais. Anything anyone wants to add? 5, 4, 3, 2. Kiddush, we said you cannot pour anything to a spouse. You cannot send her wine. The eitzah on Kiddush is very simple. Let's not make something very complicated. The eitzah is husband drinks from cup, puts it down, the wife could come and take the cup. Or husband drinks, pours into multiple cups, and everyone comes and takes theirs. The issues only become when we open up our big fat mouth. When you say, pass this to mommy, that was an isser. So don't say that. Take all of them and say, pass them down. No, the kid will not stop. You said pass them down and not pass it to mommy. The kid will rest. Yes. Correct. That's Stam. You're not allowed to finish anything. But you mentioned Kishal Bracha. Just a little Kishal Bracha disclaimer. Gemara Psachim writes all the miles of Kishal Bracha. Yet, go to the average chasana. After the chuppah, all that wine, that's Kishal Bracha wine. That's Kishal Bracha wine. Yeah, it's beautiful. No. It's not like chicken soup. Go, I know the Gemara Psachim. Mamash like chicken soup. And I'll just tell you, Meiser Rav, Ray Brown, he's going to use this one all day. Ray Brown at the chasana, it might have been mine or my brother's, I don't remember which one, but afterwards, he's just sitting there pounding the wine. This Kaishal Brachas. I don't know. Sometimes like we make yourself crazy. Piet them to send down the Kaishal Bracha. The wine's just sitting there. Go take a drink. I understand germs. Let's move on. Okay, so we got through Rachakas. Baruch Hashem, it's time for the woman to prepare to go to the mikvah. So what do? We start with the 5 days, and then we move on to the 7 days, culminating with the chafifa and then the tevila. So the 5 days is, again, just to mention something very simple and stupid, but in case we forget, the day that the flow begins is the first of the 5 days. So if a woman sees her period on a Monday, Monday is day 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday will be the Hefsek Taira, and the hack is the day of the Hefsek Taira is the day of the mikvah. So over here, Friday will be the Hefsek Taira. Friday night, yes, Rabbi Forrest coined that one. Friday night, it's not yours, it's Rabbi Forrest. Friday night, she will go to the mikvah. Are there times, lehalacha, that you could wait 4 days? There are times. And if one feels that it deems the necessity, they should ask a Rav. It is important to point out that generally a woman doesn't clean up before 5 days. So generally it's more of a scholastic shaila more than a practical shaila, but there could be situations, and therefore you ask a shaila. The hefsek taira, before a woman does hefsek taira, Eitzah taiva lechatchila, she should be washing herself out. She should be washing her bottom out. She does not have to take a bath. She does not have to take a shower. She's supposed to wash out the bottom of her body. A baby wipe to wipe herself out will suffice. Lemaisa, one should wait. If they're washing themselves out, especially if they're sitting in a bath, they should wait a little bit before the hefsek. Now, most particularly is to help her. What do you mean to help her? Everyone thinks our seichel teaches us, 1 second. If I do the bedika, the hefsek, the moment after she washes out her insides will be the most clean. The answer is maybe, but then you're going to cut yourself. Water, believe it or not, is a drying entity. It sounds odd, but it is the way that it is. Water dries the woman's body out. Therefore, if she washes herself out, if she sits in a bath, even worse, comes right out and does a bedika, chances are she's just going to end up giving herself a makkah, which will make things worse. So therefore, lechatchila, eitzah taiva, is that she should wait. L'maisa, you're running down to the wire. Shkia is in a moment. You don't have to wait. B'diavad, you're allowed to do a bedika. We said the eitzah, as soon as you do the bedika, you should write down the time. Because if it's getting close to Shkia, then there will become that machlek. Because no, that clock was wrong. No, that clock was right. Wait, you looked at your phone. You didn't look at your phone. Whatever it is, you want to know the time. You have to get it in before Shkia. If it isn't done before Shkia, call a Rav. Don't assume it's bad. Don't assume it's good. You call a Rav. The way you do the Hefsek Taira is you need a twirl. It has to twirl. It has to spin, whether the way up, whether the way down, whether the way up and the way down. But it needs a twirl. The best time for the Hefsek Taira is as close as possible to Shkia. Obviously not that close because you don't want to miss it, but as close as possible to Shkia. But L'maisa, it's allowed to be done at any time during the day. Obviously there's levels of L'chatchila, the closest to Shkia, Mincha Ketana, Chatzais, and then Ba Boiker. Moich Dachuk, after the Hefsek Taira, you put in a Moich, which is basically a B'dikuloth. It is advisable to twirl the Moich either on the way in or on the way out, just in case the Hefsek was no good, but the Moich is good. And yes, that could actually happen. And then that will save the day. If you didn't walk around, there is Kulas ask a Rav. How long does the Moich stay in? Lechatchila, the Moich should stay in for Bein HaShmashes. How long is Bein HaShmashes? Well, in America, we pass Bein HaShmashes. Whatever you say in a Motzei Shabbos, it's just something like 45, 50, 55 minutes. In Eretz Yisrael, it's a little bit less. Lamaisa, if a woman can't do that because it hurts her body, that's perfectly fine, and she keeps it in for less time. If a woman is prone to makas, if a woman is prone to issues, ask a rav, and often a moich will be advised not to be done in order to get her to the mikveh. Next comes the Zayin Nikiyim. The Zayin Nikiyim are, as they say, the 7 clean days. What do you have to do for the Zayin Nikiyim? Lichatz chili, you do 2 bedikas a day, and you know that you're in the Zayin Nikiyim, and you wear a white undergarment, and you wear a white sheet. That is the world of Lichatz Chila. Limaisa, there's no need to count bipel like the Shalah HaKadosh says, to count like Sfira Yom Yom Rishain. I don't believe anyone even has such a minhag, but one should be cognizant that they're in the Zayin Nikiyim. You do 2 bedikas a day. If 2 bedikas are difficult, you do 1 bedika a day. If 1 bedika is difficult, you ask a Rav, and he'll probably advise you do 1, 4, and 7. If even that is difficult, the Rav will probably advise you do 1 and 7. If even that is difficult, cry to the Rav, and maybe there's what to be done. But Lamaisa, you need to do 2 bedikas during the 7 Nikiyim, during the Zayin Nikiyim. White undergarments. White sheet is the minhag. One might say, why am I putting on a white sheet in the bed if she's wearing white under? It's a good question. Lamais, it's a minhag, and most places can say it's a lichatz chila. That doesn't mean you're going away, you got to schlep the white sheet and start making yourself uncomfortable in the shver and shviger's house to put down the white sheet, and they walk into the room and blah, blah, blah. But lamaisa, there is a lichatz chila. You get your Zayin Nikiyim, you did your Hafsik Taira, which means if you're counting, there's minimum of 3 clean bedikas to get to the mikvah. There's the Hafsik Taira, and then there are the 2 bedikas, 1 and 7. Yes? Yes. 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 That's why I said if there's a very, very shver story, call to the Rav and cry, and there is what to be done. And yeah, there is a makom. There's an Aruch HaShulchan that's Mekel on 1. There's a Moshe Feinstein that's Mekel on 1. Lamaisa Rav Agoner of David Cohen, Bishas Hadchak will be Mekel, of course, and therefore that's what you call the Rav and ask. Finally, you get your Zayin Nikiyim on the day of the Tefillah, which already mentioned was the day of the Hefsek Taira. You do something called Chafifa. Chafifa means you're preparing for the mikvah. The basic, it sounds very scary and very difficult. It's really not. Basically, a woman just has to remove anything that is stuck to her body, most particularly that she cares about. If a woman says, oh my gosh, I have this black ink stain on my arm, I haven't been able to get off in months and I've been scrubbing, don't worry about it. You do what you got to do. If it's there, it doesn't concern you in life. If you care about it, it's a different story. Basically, she combs her hair, she shaves if she shaves, she does her nails, she cleans her teeth, and she takes a bath for a few minutes, and then she showers. It's very simple. It's not so difficult. Lichatz chila should be in the morning, some part by day, and then finish by night. That's a lichatz chila. Let's say a woman has kids at home, therefore she can do it early in the morning. That's fine. Lichatz chila, you want to start the chaviva by day, and you want to finish by night. Lamaisa, it's lichatz chila to go to the mikvah at the right time and not to push off a tefillah for multiple reasons, even though we pass in tefillah bizman a lav mitzvah bizman hazeh. However, you want to go to the mikvah on the right time for 3 other reasons. Number 1 is for puravu. Number 2 is because of mitzvah vayna to be together with your husband. And number 2 is to save your husband for any yihurim, etc. But if it's very difficult, it's a lel seder, it's a chasen, it's a family simcha, and for her to go to the mikvah is certainly not going to create any of the above 3. The opposite, it's just going to create strife and aggravation. You call up the rav, you speak it out with him, and of course, there are times to push off the mikvah. But a husband not being home is not a time to push off the mikvah, because you never know. In the world of travel, he could come home any moment. So she still goes to the mikvah. Al pi Kabbalah, if a woman is home at Leil Tvilu without her husband being there, Al pi Kabbalah is different than Yanim, what one should do, a knife, a garment, a baby, etc., etc. You call the Rav, but Lamaisa, don't push off the mikvah, because you never know. He surprises you, and you have a bad situation. Once you do your chafifa, you went through the checklist, you did it appropriately, took the right amount of time, and then you went to the mikvah, you don't second guess yourself. Finally, you get into the mikvah, and basically you want to be relaxed when you tayvel. It's important to note the day of tefillah is an auspicious day for tefillah. She goes to the mikvah, we go 3 times, we make the bracha after the first time. When she comes up, after going and relax, she touches something tar, and she goes home and tells her husband that she was tayvel, she went to the mikvah. If there's other people there and she doesn't want to say that, she's allowed to do a maisa, allowed to make up a sign beforehand. And we'll conclude with the last 60 seconds. What happens after she goes back for the mikvah the next month? She now has to be worried about vestais. It's basically 3 vestais woman has to worry about. It's called the 30 days from the last time she saw, or 31 days. It's called the Yom HaChodesh, the same date of the month, and it's called the Yom HaFlaga, the interval day. The most important one is the Aina Beinanis, which has a din of a de'araisa, which means she has to do a bedika. You have to separate on the day, and if you don't do bedika, you're usher until you do a bedika. All vestais you have to separate on the day. There's a tavla bracha, not doing a chivit nishak v'siyata d'shmaya b'schos. Chazering and learning a Niddah. Everyone should have those in each shidduchim, as Rav Steinberg used to tell people. Everything, if anything that's a shidduch for children means it's a skula for shidduchim, because you can't have the children if you don't have the shidduchim. So v'siyat d'shmaya, by learning the halachas, everyone should be zaycha to all the yeshuas that they need in their own personal lives. Shkoyach.